Greetings and a very good morning to you, Libras. Welcome to Wings of Libra, a place to rest your wings and receive guidance from the fairies. My name is KP. It's a blessing to be here with you all. All right, let's fly right into our fairy wing reading for today. Fairies, tell us about today. What fairy will help us focus on what we need to know most today? Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. Here we go. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, fairies. Will you tell us a little more about our wings, please? Tell us a little more about the Libra's wing. Okay. Thank you. Can you give us at least one more, please, just for this final part? Thank you. Okay. And at the bottom of the deck we have Nelly's the Alchemist, inverted. Let me scoot this over a bit. Okay, so here we have Sylvanius. I'm going to hold it here for a moment to let you see it because this card has a lot to appreciate about it. For one, now let's go into this being here in this position. This is giving us the guidance for us today. And for this, I'd actually like to read to you from the book a bit, as Brian Froud had some interesting comments on this particular piece here. Brian called this painting the Mask of Truth, True Dreaming. Sylvanius, who holds the Mask of Truth, is Lord of the Woodlands, his crown of antler branches signifying his authority. He presents the mask to us, supported by the Fairy of Aspiration, as she welcomes us to our own potential. We wear the mask to look inward, seeing our true selves, not our false and fearful selves, but the beings of light that we truly are and what we have the potential to be. It becomes very difficult for us to make excuses and blame others for our failures and fears once we have seen what we could be if we were willing, what in fact we already are but might not be quite living up to. Brian wrote, "The fairy Kundrun holds one of the many sacred swords of fairyland. This one, forged long ago by mysterious dwarves, is laid across the cliff of the other world as a bridge to fairyland. The two-edged sword symbolizes the union of the human world with the world of fairy, as well as the union of the outer world of nature within the inner world of the psyche. It is the sword of clear-cut understanding and sharp perception, but once we cross into fairy, it becomes the sword of courage and noble service." So with this card being here, at this time, we are discovering new truths about ourselves, and these truths are essential for us to know in order to create relationships based on mutual respect, affection, and trust. And in reference to a lot of the recent tarot readings, it sounds like a lot of us Libra people are owning up to our own worth. We're setting boundaries. We're realizing what and admitting what we will allow and what we will not tolerate, because we know that we deserve respect. We know that we deserve a lot more than maybe others were willing to give to us in the past. And this, if it doesn't apply to you, if you're receiving what you feel you should be receiving, excellent. That's great. Keep it up. But for those of us that maybe have just barely been receiving that now, this is a really powerful time for us to continue stepping into our own light and to continue to allow it to show from us and share this light with other people. So with these new truths, these things can only work if we see ourselves and others as we currently are. As we are, because currently both Faery and this world are functioning as a giant mirror in which we see ourselves in many surprising ways. People tend to dread this because we assume that we are worse than we think we are, when this is far from necessarily true. Now is a time for finding out the false and misleading beliefs you have accepted and discovering that you are a better person than you thought. And you have the potential to accomplish more than you believed you could. If someone says you are better or simply different than you think you are, don't automatically reject this. Think it over carefully. You have a lot more to give and a lot more to enjoy than you have really been given yourself credit for. So maybe some of us have been dimming our own light. Maybe we felt like our light would make other people feel uncomfortable, or whatever thoughts were holding us back from really allowing it to show forth. Sylvanius is here with us with the Faery of Aspiration to encourage us to go ahead and step into this light. It's a very powerful and beautiful time, because a lot of times there can be moments where we question our own light, where we might not feel that we're worth, or maybe we know what we are worth, but will allow other people to diminish that worth, be it because they're jealous or they're intimidated or whatever they have going on. That has nothing to do with you. You should never dim your light just because it's making someone else uncomfortable. You're not causing any harm, especially if you're bringing healing and things that this world really, really needs. Then don't you diminish that light. There are a lot of us that need that light. We need to see that light shining. And if you're diminishing it because somebody close to you or wherever is making you uncomfortable, then those of us that might need that light to move forward aren't able to see that. And only you can provide that for some people. Next, in our wing position, we have Epona's Wild Daughter. And with this card, if you'll notice, that she is positioned like a sphinx with a wise looking owl, and she's holding on to a person who is forced to look inward. This card being here, and especially in the inverted position. Now this fairy, her name is Dorcha, this one here. This is generally signifying whoever is receiving this reading, which is Libra collective right now. So maybe some of us, collectively speaking, this might not apply to all of us, but maybe some of us weren't looking inward enough. Maybe some of us haven't been doing shadow work, or maybe some of us have been avoiding certain questions within the shadow work that we've done, because those are areas that are very dark. And maybe we haven't allowed ourselves to reach those points and pull out whatever it is that is causing harm within us. Her crown is made of moonlight, and this is an element that tempers and tests the spirit. Through her teachings, our inner conflicts and struggles become, as they are resolved, our greatest strengths. So with her, she is the type of sphinx that will not only ask you a riddle, but will keep you here, forcing you to look inward until you know the answer so strongly that she can't hold you down. She can't remind you to look inward. When we receive her in the inverted position, this can indicate that maybe some of us are refusing to look inward. Maybe that actually has to do with some of us, our sense of self-worth. Like maybe we wouldn't have allowed ourselves to be treated so badly at times, but something in our past that we're refusing to look at planted a seed that grew into the manifestation of us not allowing or owning up or acknowledging and appreciating our own worth. So when we weren't able to do that for ourselves, then we might have attracted people who weren't able to do that either for us. And with this, if we aren't able to look really deeply within and find out, okay, what was it that happened? Why do I feel this way? Why do I keep seeing these patterns? What is it that caused me to start receiving this? If we don't start doing shadow work and asking ourselves questions like this, and maybe journaling them out or doing a meditation, there's different hypnotic meditations that you can listen to, and like it can kind of give you at least a place to start if you're not sure like what kind of meditation to start with to do such work. But there are different videos like that on YouTube that are available now. But if we don't go deeply within, if we stop at a certain point and don't acknowledge how these things have affected our growth, then they're going to continue to fester. And this is cautioning us not to allow that to continue to happen. With this being here, the fawn, which is interesting. We've been seeing a lot of fawns and stags lately in our readings. This being here in the inverted position. We've actually seen this before, I remember now. I just remembered it did come to us before, and it was in the inverted position as well, because it was acknowledging that this situation and probably the people involved have become bogged down in murky energy and need a breath of wild, fresh air blown through them. It encouraged us to go for a walk in the park, organize a picnic, go into the country, and invite the fairies to come along and help us harmonize the atmosphere. That if we can't do that, that maybe we can give gifts of potted plants, preferably with flowers. It's encouraging us to come back to our natural selves, to be aware of the cycles of sun, moon, the ever-changing flowing balance of Mama Nature, to live in harmony with that, to exercise appropriately where we can, to eat well, to clear the toxins of civilized living from our systems. It's encouraging us to go out and look at Lady Moon as often as we can, and to smile back at Father Sun. And maybe some of us, in not looking deeply within because it's painful, maybe some of us would find peace by just going outside. Maybe it's too heavy. Go outside, get some fresh air. At the same time, though, maybe some of us go outside a lot, and the opposite is actually needed here. I just received that maybe some of us have a job outside and the last place we want to be is outside right now. And if that's the case, it's okay. Okay, I'm sorry to pause like that, but it just came to me to, you can still be within and like inside your house and ground yourself to connect with nature as well. For myself, I have these different gemstones. You might get yourself a plant, because then you have different elements going with that, because you have the earth, you have the water that you're going to give it, you have the growth of the plant itself. So if anything, some of us might need to buy a potted plant for ourselves, maybe just for our home, and something that maybe some of us, especially if we're just starting out, make sure that it's something that's easy to take care of, because one of the worst things that someone might do is go get a plant that requires more care, and they're not sure how to take care of it, and then it makes them feel bad if it passes away because they weren't able to provide the proper care. So if you get something, if you find yourself in this place, I mean, if you're a plant expert, awesome, get yourself whatever plant. But if you're just coming into connection with such things, then it might be very, very helpful if you start with something that's easy to take care of. Here we have the feline. Looking at us all accusingly, but it was in the inverted position. So with this being here, I'd actually like to read from the book as well, because it's just so good. Okay, I mean, look at those eyes. Here, the feline reverse says, hey, wait a minute, whose idea was this anyway? He asks us to consider whose oughts and shoulds entangle us with feelings of guilt. Have we taken on a lot of unrealistic or unfair or just plain silly demands from others? Are these old, irrelevant emotional programs we carry around from the past? The feline turned upside down suggests that we need to make a careful accounting of our guilty feelings and to decide just how many of them are actually our duty and how many are simply the result of other people making unfair or unrealistic demands of us. And we unfortunately collude with this by acquiescing to such demands. He also suggests that we take a look at how many of these unfinished tasks actually belong to others, but have been taken on by us in a misguided attempt to be helpful or to appear obliging. Are we trying to make martyrs of ourselves? If so, it may well be that one part of us says aloud the foolish thing, "Oh, let me do that for you," while another part says silently and mostly ignored, "It would all be better all around if they did it for themselves." This sets up a conflict within us, and these conflicts use up a lot of energy, leaving us drained and unable to get on with our lives. These feelings can even be the cause of serious depression. One way to resolve this one is to either do the job you initially said you would do, and then be smart enough not to make any more promises like that, or to give notice to other people involved that we hereby hand them back their own responsibilities. This is hard stuff, but well worth the effort in present relief and future peace. The feline would like to be our friend. He would like to read over our shoulders when we curl up with those good books. He'd like to dance in front of the computer screen while we play those new games or ride the golf balls that we happily hit. But he can't do this until we can play with a clear conscience. The longer we put these duties off, the grumpier and more demanding and more shrill voiced he gets. But when our tasks are done, those that are actually ours, he becomes a free lion. And no one is more magnificent than that, as quoted from the book. Some of us, and that might be things weighing us down too. I could see that. I'm feeling like someone in the past was encouraged, maybe especially if they had siblings or cousins or other people that they were responsible for. They might have been encouraged to take on the responsibilities of others. Maybe sometimes people didn't trust others around them to get things done, so then they ended up doing this themselves, and that might have started in childhood. And it might not seem like, oh, that's a shadow thing, I gotta work out. It might be something as seemingly normal, so to speak, or I don't want to say normal, let's say common, where sometimes parents can put too much pressure on older siblings or cousins because they want them to wrangle all the younger ones. And sometimes they are also told, okay, so not only do you have to wrangle the younger ones, you also have to make sure that everyone gets whatever chores done. And you have to get all this done before we get back from wherever. So then the older one is scrambling around trying to make sure that no one's, one, getting into something they're not supposed to be getting into, and two, making sure that, of course, they're all safe and eating and whatever, and three, making sure that they did their responsibilities, like if it's their homework or whatever. And then it's like, oh, we got to get that done before whoever comes back. Okay, let's get this done. I'll just do your homework for you because, you know, I don't want to have to take time, and we got to get this done before whoever comes back, or I'll just, mop and sweep and milk the cow or whatever for you because we got to get this done. And even though that doesn't seem like anything bad, it might have actually planted seeds of my needs aren't as important as the needs of other people around me. And when that happens, and it's not like there's anyone to blame, it's not like, oh, well, it's whoever's fault for doing that, that was unfair of them. It might be helpful to consider that they might have been doing the best they could at the time. Now, if they weren't, and you genuinely had someone who put way too much on you, then it will still be helpful for you to go through and process these feelings. Because whether they were in an understandable position, maybe they had a lot of responsibilities, maybe you all had a farm or something, and there was just a lot of things that needed to be done. So it wasn't coming from a place of malice. Maybe for some of us it was coming from a place of malice, but regardless, however those seeds got planted, it's up to us to break through that and allow ourselves to realize that we don't need to carry other people's responsibilities and burdens. We have our own growth here. I mean, look at this. We're emerging out of the mask. We are aligning with our truth. We are revealing ourselves and our strengths. We don't need to be doing that while carrying the energy and expectations and demands of others around, especially if they are not our responsibilities. Here we have the Bright Mother at the wingtip, and she is in the upright position. This is a very beautiful card. I don't know if I'll get in, well, let's see. When she's present in a reading, she speaks of a time of fertility, which is interesting, which is why I even brought this out, because it seems like all across the board, a lot of the Libra tarot readings lately have been talking about fertility. And sometimes that might turn some of us away, because it's like, fertility? What do you mean? I have whatever going on and that's not okay. It might not mean in a physical sense. It's not necessarily always going to be that someone's pregnant with a child. People might be pregnant with possibilities. People might be holding on to ideas and dreams that they stashed away 30 years ago because some person that didn't believe in them told them that they didn't believe in them, and then they believed that person over their own intuitive knowing that that's something that not only needs to be here, but that you're the person that can bring it forth. That's why you were given that idea. That's why you were called to do that. And this is here to acknowledge, hey, it's time for that to come on out. It's time to nurture that. This can also speak of creatively speaking. It can be, you might be inspired to write a play. You might be inspired to create art. You might be inspired to make music. You might be inspired to write poetry. You might be inspired to go into comedy. I actually just saw an ad with Billy Connolly offering a comedy master course, which I thought would just be fun to see. Not that I necessarily want to go into comedy or anything, but just the fact that it's Billy Connolly delivering this class, I thought would just be fun to see. But he even is encouraging people to, if that's something that's calling you, he's offering a master course for it. Not that he's giving me anything to mention, it just that I saw the ad and it reminded me, oh yeah, that was something that I had forgotten about personally, because I'm not really into stand-up or anything like that. So I forgot that that's a thing that people do. People get paid to go up there and make people laugh just by saying stuff. And if that's you, go forth and do it. I might not see you unless if like you somehow let me know, and then I'll go check you out, because I don't generally dabble in stuff. I mean, after all, I'm the one that forgot that that's even a thing, but maybe some of us have that within us. Maybe some of us are called to sing, but this is talking about giving your all to your life and not to hold back. She's like a cornucopia, pouring forth abundance. And this is also reminding us to be patient for the process being discussed, because maybe you did have an idea and you want to go do this, but it's not wise to expect it to bear fruit tomorrow. For example, the farmers don't go out, plant the seeds, and then the next day they're like, oh, well, you didn't come out in the night, so I'm just going to dig you up and eat you now. And they give it time to grow. They give it time to nurture it. This is reminding us to do that for ourselves. Here at the bottom of the deck, we have Nellis, the alchemist, and she was inverted. Oh, let me show the deck. So when this fairy comes up in a reading, it's generally telling us to get ready for things to happen inwardly and outwardly. That the stuck becomes unstuck, the blocked begins to move, and that we may even need to run to keep up with the speed at which the situation around us is moving. It also, this card being like that, or present at all, is in alignment with a lot of our Libra tarot as of late, because it's like, okay, temperance, but you know, once you get through this temperance, then you're gonna have a magical opening and opportunity, and you're gonna be abundant, and look at you with your 10 of all of these magical stuff. And it's in alignment with that. We may even find that our plans, even our desires and dreams, are changing as the transformative process takes place. Like, it might not have been in our plans, but later on when we look back, it's like, wow, that wasn't what I expected to happen, but it was just what I needed. So when this card shows up in the reverse, though, she's straight up telling us that we're getting in her way. So to put it bluntly, we may have been the main obstacles in our own paths, that it is necessary for us to transform attitudes and behaviors, maybe having to do with some of the things that we were letting hold us down in order to move forward. She'll first approach us with tact and a kindly fairy warning, pointing out an alternate path we might consider. And at this point, it would be well to begin actively cooperating with her energy of alchemical transformation, because she's here helping us transform our lives. I mean, look at her ready to put some magic forth through that wand. But if we're not letting her, if we're getting in her way and in our own way, then she can't give us the magic that she's trying to help us bring everything, our dreams and goals and aspirations into fruition with. Okay, so let's get an Angels and Ancestors card now. Okay, Angels and Ancestors, what do you have to add to our Faery, wing reading for today? I didn't get to finish. Okay, so here we are. Wow, at the bottom of the deck, look, the Sky Father. To trust in the unknown. We received the Hunter inverted, which makes sense. Maybe some of us haven't been tracking down our fears and desires. Maybe some of us even fear our own greatness, which might seem weird, but that happens, where sometimes maybe people know that they are supposed to rise into a certain position, but maybe it terrifies them for some reason. This being inverted is telling us, stop it, hunt that down, get that. This is telling us to be brave and honest with the Knight here, which is interesting, aligning with here, the Mask of Truth, and the Warrior, to be fearless and stand strong when we bring forth these creative energies that we are so fertile with. And in being fearless and standing strong, that strength is definitely something that the feline would appreciate as we set up boundaries and give people the responsibilities that are not ours back to them. Wow, this has been a really great reading. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you all were able to receive some clarity, some guidance, and I wish you all a very wonderful rest of your day.